You just lost money, not metaphorically, real money. In the last 3 minutes of your life, an invisible pattern in your brain made at least one financial decision for you. And that decision was against your own interest. I know this because there's a cognitive bias operating in your mind right now that on average drains $147,000 from the financial life of an ordinary person. And the scariest part? You don't know when it's acting. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this bias works, how to identify when it's sabotaging your finances, and why the solution has nothing to do with spreadsheets or financial education. That number isn't an exaggeration. $147,000. Researchers at Ohio University conducted a long-term study tracking financial decisions of ordinary people over 20 years, and what they discovered was disturbing. When they isolated the costs of a single behavioral pattern, the average amount of money wasted, lost, or failed to earn because of this specific bias reached that terrifying figure. And look, I know what you're thinking. It must be about risky investments, gambling, obvious things. But no. This bias acts in the most mundane decisions of your life. That subscription you don't cancel. That course you don't finish but keep paying for. That toxic relationship that costs you energy and money. That old car you insist on fixing every month. Let me tell you a real story. Marcus, 38 years old engineer, had a car. A sedan he bought new 12 years ago. In the last 4 years, this car became a financial black hole. Mechanic every month, expensive parts. He'd already spent $23,000 on maintenance in those 4 years. When a friend asked why he didn't trade the car in, Marcus's answer was automatic, almost reflexive. I've already invested so much money in this car that it doesn't make sense to give up now. Have you ever said or thought something like this? Remember that phrase. It's the fingerprint of the bias we're going to dissect today. Its technical name is sunk cost fallacy. But the name doesn't matter. What matters is what it does to you. This bias is an emotional trap that transforms past losses into justifications for future losses. It's your brain convincing you that because you've already lost time, money, or energy on something, you need to keep investing so you don't waste what's already been invested. It's perfectly irrational logic disguised as common sense. And here's the cruel trick of this bias. It feels like responsibility. It feels like persistence. It feels like you being a person who doesn't give up, who honors their commitments, who isn't weak. But the naked truth is that this bias is bleeding you financially every day, and you're calling it character. Let's go back to Marcus. He kept fixing the car. 6 more months, another $5,000, until the engine completely died. Only then did he buy another car. When he did the math, he realized that if he had sold the car 4 years earlier, even at a loss, and financed a reliable used car, he would have saved more than $29,000. $29,000 evaporated because his brain couldn't accept a simple truth. Money that's already been spent no longer exists. No matter how much you cling to it mentally, it's gone. The only relevant question is always, what makes financial sense from here forward? But the sunk cost bias won't let you ask that question. It traps you in the past. Now look at this. You probably have at least 3 active situations in your life right now where this bias is operating. Let me show you the most common places where it hides. Service subscriptions. You pay for Netflix, Spotify, that gym you haven't been to in 5 months. That streaming service you subscribe to, watch one series and never canceled. Why don't you cancel? Because your brain tells you, I've already paid so many months, if I cancel now it was money thrown away. Wait, that money was already thrown away. It already left your account. Keeping the subscription won't recover it. It'll just throw more money in the same hole. Toxic relationships. Yes, this is financial psychology. You're in a relationship that emotionally drains you. But you've been together for 6 years. You've lived together. You've shared bills. You've talked about marriage. Your brain screams, I've invested 6 years of my life in this. I can't throw it all away now. But those 6 years already happened. The question isn't, how much time have I invested? It's, is this relationship good for me now and will it be good for me in the future? The emotional cost of bad relationships translates into financial cost. Low productivity at work, emergency therapy expenses, impulsive financial decisions to compensate for emotional emptiness, comfort shopping. It all adds up. Courses and education. You bought a $3,000 online course, watched 10%. You know you're not going to finish it. It's not your thing. But you force yourself to give it a chance because I spent $3,000. I need to make use of it. You're throwing away your time, your most valuable resource, trying to force value from something that no longer serves you. The $3,000 is gone. The question is, What's the better investment of your time now? Finishing this course without motivation or seeking something that actually develops you? Business and partnerships. You entered a business with a partner, invested $65,000. 2 years later, it's clear the business doesn't work. The market changed. The partnership is strained. But you think, I put $65,000 into this. If I leave now, I lost everything. No. You already lost the $65,000 if the business doesn't work. The question is, will continuing recover that money or just add more loss? Entrepreneurs lose fortunes because they can't exit dead projects in time. The sunk cost keeps them trapped until the last drop of capital. Real estate. You bought an apartment to invest. The market dropped. The property is worth less than you paid. You don't rent it because I don't want to lose money selling below the price you bought it for. Meanwhile, the idle property loses value through depreciation. You pay property taxes, HOA fees, maintenance. In 5 years, you spend another $20,000 holding an asset that only depreciates because your ego can't accept selling at a loss. But you're already at a loss. You're just sinking deeper. Now let's get to the brutal math of loss. When you add up all these small decisions contaminated by sunk cost bias over 20, 30 years, the numbers explode. 3 unnecessary subscriptions at $100 per month for 10 years, $12,000. A car you fixed too much for 8 years instead of trading at the right time, $53,000 difference. A course you keep paying installments on for 2 years without using, $9,600. A failed business you sustained for 3 years beyond the point of return, $160,000. An idle property that costs you $13,000 per year for 5 years, when you could have sold and invested the money in something profitable. $65,000 plus lost opportunity of returns that easily adds another $80,000. Do the math. These examples alone already exceed $300,000. And I haven't even talked about career decisions. How many people stay in jobs that destroy them because I've been at the company for 10 years? How many people don't change fields because I already did a law degree, it would be a waste? The opportunity cost of these decisions is astronomical. That person who stays in a toxic job earning $9,000 when they could be elsewhere earning $16,000 for 5 years, lost $420,000. $420,000 because of a cognitive bias. But here's the question you need to ask now. Why does your brain do this to you? Why did we evolve with a mental system that financially punishes us this way? The answer lies in the pain of loss. There's an area of neuroscience called neuroeconomics that studies exactly this. And what they discovered is frightening. Your brain processes loss and gain in completely different ways. When you gain $100, an area of the brain linked to reward activates. When you lose $100, an area linked to physical pain activates. Literally. The same area that feels a burn. Losing hurts physically, and there's more. The pain of loss is, on average, 2.5 times more intense than the pleasure of equivalent gain. You need to gain $250 to feel the same emotional impact as losing $100. This is called loss aversion, and it's the mother of sunk cost bias. Your brain will do everything to avoid feeling the pain of admitting a loss. So it creates narratives. It convinces you that continuing to invest in something bad will somehow magically transform the loss into a non-loss. It's the brain trying to rewrite the past through the future. But there's an even deeper layer. Admitting you made a bad decision, that you wasted money, time, energy. That's not just about material loss. It's about identity. You see yourself as an intelligent person, competent, who makes good decisions. Admitting a loss is admitting you were wrong. And the ego doesn't like that. So the sunk cost bias becomes an ego defense mechanism. You keep investing in something bad not because it makes sense, but because stopping would be admitting you were wrong all along. And that hurts more than the financial loss. Here's something most people don't realize. This bias isn't just cognitive. It has deep emotional roots that usually come from childhood. Let me explain. If you grew up in a family where waste was a mortal sin, where your parents fought over thrown away food, where you were punished for not valuing things, your brain developed hypervigilance against loss. Any sign of waste triggers anxiety. And then, in adult life, you can't cancel the subscription, can't quit the course, can't sell the car, because all of this is read by your nervous system as waste, as disrespect for resources, as you being a bad person. If you grew up hearing that quitters are weak, that winners never quit, this bias becomes even stronger. Because now it's not just about money, it's about character. Stopping investing in something bad becomes in your head, quitting, weakness, moral failure. So you continue. Even when all rational signs say to stop, you continue. Because your childhood belief system transformed persistence into absolute virtue, without nuance, without context. And there's another factor nobody talks about: social shame. You told everyone you were going to do that business. You posted on Instagram that you were going to take that course. You told your family it would work out. Now stopping means facing others' judgment. It means hearing "I told you so." It means publicly admitting failure. So you continue, not for you, but for the imaginary audience in your head. And that costs you fortunes. Now, how do you identify when sunk cost bias is active? There are trigger phrases it uses. If you catch yourself saying or thinking these phrases, the bias is operating. Write them down. I've already invested so much that I can't stop now. It would be a waste to give up after everything I've put into this. Just a little more. Then it'll start paying off. I can't leave now. It's almost there. If I stop, it was all for nothing. Since I started, I need to finish. These phrases are symptoms. Whenever one appears, stop, breathe, and ask the crucial question, the anti-bias question. The most powerful tool against sunk cost. It's a simple question, but radically effective. Here it is. If I were starting from scratch today with no history, would I invest my time, money, or energy in this? Pay attention to this question. It removes the past from the equation. It forces you to evaluate the situation on its merits now, not on what you've already put into it. If the answer is no, you need to exit. It doesn't matter how much you've already invested, because continuing just transforms a loss into a bigger loss. Let me give you a practical example. You're in a relationship, 5 years together. Apply the question. If I met this person today with the dynamic we have now, would I start this relationship? If the answer is no, you're trapped in sunk cost. The 5 years are irrelevant. What matters is this good for me now? Will it be good for the next 5 years? Everything that already happened is history. The only thing you control is what you do from here forward. Same example with business. If I had this money in hand today and knew this business the way it is now, would I invest? No, then you need to exit. But the brain will scream. It will hurt, because you're forcing it to accept the loss. And remember, loss physically hurts. So you'll feel discomfort, anxiety, a voice saying you're weak, a quitter, irresponsible. That voice isn't wisdom. It's the bias trying to keep you trapped. There's a technique from cognitive behavioral therapy that works really well here. It's called externalization. When you identify the bias acting, you speak out loud, as if it were another person. This is sunk cost bias trying to convince me to keep throwing money away to protect my ego from admitting a loss. Naming the bias, externalizing it, creates psychological distance. You are not the bias. You are the person observing the bias. And when you achieve that distance, the chance of you making a rational decision multiplies. Another powerful strategy, the imaginary advisor. When you're stuck in a decision contaminated by sunk cost, imagine a close friend is in the same situation and asked you for advice. They tell you, I've already invested $65,000 in a business that's sinking, but I don't want to leave because then I lose everything. What would you tell them? You'd probably say, man, the $65,000 is gone. Continuing will just make you lose more. Exit now and invest the money you still have in something that works. Done. Apply the same advice to yourself. But the ego won't let you. Because for you, it's different. It's not. It's just the bias making you believe it is. And there's the paper exercise. Take a piece of paper. Divide into 2 columns. Column 1. What I've already invested and will never recover regardless of what I do. Column 2. If I were starting from scratch today, what would I do? Write with brutal honesty. The act of writing activates areas of the brain linked to logic and slightly deactivates emotional areas. You'll see on paper the insanity of the situation. But even seeing it, it can be difficult to act. Because the bias isn't just mental. It's emotional. It's visceral. So here's the hardest truth I'm going to tell you today. You're going to keep losing money to sunk cost bias for a good while still. Because knowing the bias isn't enough. Even behavioral psychologists specializing in biases fall into this trap. I fall. Everyone falls. The difference is frequency and intensity. The more you train to identify the bias, the more you use the anti-bias question, the more you practice accepting losses without punishing yourself, the less money you'll lose. But you'll never be immune. Never. Because this bias is programmed in the deepest circuits of the brain. What you can do is reduce the impact, and the reduction alone can easily save $50, $100, $150,000 over a lifetime. Let me show you one last thing that'll tie everything together. The philosophy behind the solution. Sunk cost bias exists because we humans have an unhealthy relationship with loss. We treat loss as moral failure. I lost money, therefore I'm stupid. I lost time, therefore I'm incompetent. But the truth is that loss is information. Every loss teaches you something. You only learn where not to invest after investing in the wrong place. You only discover what doesn't work for you by trying things that don't work. Loss isn't the enemy. Loss is feedback. And feedback is the most valuable asset that exists. So the antidote to sunk cost bias isn't becoming cold and rational. It's changing your relationship with loss. It's celebrating when you exit something bad. Because it means you're learning, evolving, prioritizing your future instead of clinging to the past. It's seeing the $65,000 you lost in a business not as $65,000 wasted, but as the price of education. You paid $65,000 to learn that that type of business doesn't work for you. Is it expensive? Yes. But if that lesson prevents you from losing $650,000 in the next similar business, it was the best investment you made. When you stop seeing loss as punishment and start seeing it as redirection, the bias loses power. Because now you're not protecting your ego, you're optimizing your life. And optimization requires cutting what doesn't work, fast, without mercy, with gratitude for the learning. That's the mindset that truly frees you from sunk cost. It's not, be more rational. It's be wiser about what loss means. If you made it this far, you just received the biggest weapon against one of the most destructive biases in financial psychology. Now you know that invisible pattern has a name, has mechanics, has a cure, and most importantly, you know how to identify when it's acting. In the coming days, it'll be impossible not to see this bias operating in your life and in the lives of people around you. You'll see friends trapped in horrible jobs because of sunk cost. Family members in toxic relationships because of sunk cost. You yourself will catch your brain trying to convince you to continue with that useless subscription. And when that happens, you'll remember this conversation. You'll ask the question, and you'll start saving fortunes simply by letting go of what's already gone. If this video made you see something in your life you were ignoring, leave a comment telling which situation you identified, because sharing this not only helps you process, it helps other people recognize themselves too. And if you want to understand the other biases that are draining your financial life, without you realizing, I left a video here about how confirmation bias makes you miss golden opportunities while chasing illusions, worth every second.